Hey everyone, let's quickly wrap up June. I didn't finish or do a lot of things in June, so it'll be quick. Starting off with the videos, I uploaded my letter to the months and I'm very grateful to all the nice comments you left me. Thank you very much. And I uploaded one reading vlog. That's it. So let's start with the books I talked about in the reading vlog. I read The Red Scholar's Wake. This is a novel set in a epic space opera world, but it's a standalone. So you don't need to have read any of the other books set in the same universe, but it helps a little bit to understand the things, but you get all the characters on and the world explained in the book. So what is it? It's a pirate story about a mine ship and the scavenger that they capture, but then things happened. So the book starts off with the mine ship and the scavenger meeting, and the scavenger is still in a prison cell, but the mine ship's wife, the Red Scholar, has died or has been killed in a raid by non-pirates. And so the mine ship needs a new wife or a new partner, and the scavenger apparently is the best choice available. So that's how the story starts. As the story progresses, we see their relationship evolve and improve, how they work together, their opinions and different thoughts, because pirates and scavengers are coming from different perspectives at the ideas of freedom and how life looks in that universe. It's very difficult to explain. I struggle a lot about this all the time when I try to talk about the world and the universe, but I really enjoyed the story. I liked the pirates. I liked the world that they created for themselves outside of the rest of the society and how it's not working properly and the ideas they find. I also liked seeing the relationship between the mine ship and the scavenger and how that evolved. And there's also a discussion of power difference or dynamics and how, since the mine ship is the one who captured the scavenger, is very aware that she's in the dominant position, so she doesn't want to force herself onto the scavenger, and it's all discussed there and it's all well done. I also enjoyed that. So I can highly recommend it to people who like space and space opera kind of things where they have epic stories and pirates. I also would like to mention that even if you don't know the world and you don't understand what a mind ship is, it will become clear in the books, and oftentimes I ignore all the technology and science stuff that I don't get and all the society stuff that I forget about, because I am forgetful and sometimes I just enjoy the parts of the people and the different setting than just the block around the corner. The other book I talked about in that vlog was a non-fiction audiobook I listened to, How Far the Light Reaches, which is a blend of memoir and nature writing. The book is made up of 10 chapters and 10 sea creatures, and those 10 sea creatures are related to some parts or events in the life of the author. So that idea is rather nice. It's also very interesting how it intersperses or goes back and forth between the nature and the sea creatures and her events in life. But I found myself not caring about her life, the memoir parts. While they were interesting, and it's hard to judge a person's life for interesting, but they were built up in a way that you could see how the life evolved and developed and created a person. And all of that was well done, but I couldn't connect properly because I hadn't heard of the person before. I only had seen this memoir recommended and the idea and how intriguing it was and how nice the nature writing was, and I can recommend it. I really enjoyed it. It was a wonderful audiobook. I just flew through it, so I enjoyed it for that part. Oh, and if you're in need, you probably want to check trigger warnings for How Far the Light Reaches, because there's definitely rape, eating disorder, and physical or sexual abuse going on. At least that's what I noticed, so there might be more. As we're already on audiobooks, let's move on to the 2 nonfiction audiobooks I listened to that kind of fall in my society or economic bubble of what I think anyway. So I didn't learn anything new. It was more reaffirming what I already believe, which is not broadening your mind, but it was also nice to see those perspectives. One was A Good Enough Life, where it's not what I expected. I went into the book thinking about it's going to be a self-improvement of how to create a good enough life, and what part of that it is. But it's more looking at life in general and how we are competitive and how capitalism and the competitiveness is harming us as persons on a health level, but also generally in life and in society. And I thought it was super interesting, but I'm not a very competitive person, and I already think life, if it's good enough, that's enough. So that was nothing new for me, but I didn't know that there were such consequences and the effects that the competitiveness has on people and general life. I'm lacking words still. June wasn't easy. So the next book, to summarize, is even harder because it's a fully automated luxury communism. I'm not even going to pretend that I can sum up what happened in the book. It's a nonfiction about economy, and I went into this because I saw a TED Talk by the author, and he introduced me to the concept of universal basic services as compared to universal basic income. I personally think the problem with universal basic income is that it doesn't have enough regulations set in place, or that politics won't set enough regulations in place for it to work. So basically my idea is, if we get all, whatever, 500 euros per month extra, rent will rise 500 euros, and food as well. So it will create more problems than it will help. That's my own personal belief, unless politics put some kind of regulation in place to prevent that. But since they're not able to prevent rising rent right now and food prices, why would they if we have universal basic income? Because the people who profit from that are making the rules. Well, let your pessimism shine, right? Anyway, so the fully automated luxury communism is looking at the side of how technology and improvements can help us build a better society. And the idea of universal basic services is that we have healthcare and housing and all of that for everyone, so that we don't have to have more and the created scarcity of capitalism. Like I said, I cannot put into words what the book said, but I can highly recommend it. And don't let yourselves be scared off by the word communism. I recommend you're open to what the book says and listen to the ideas and the chances that the development and the AI have there, and look at it from a smart economist of what they say, because that's no way that I can give that back and support it, and I'm not smart enough and educated in economics to really understand everything. But I think the idea is capitalism isn't good, and we all know that. So, moving on. The last audiobook I listened to was very short. It was a fable, The Hen Who Dreamed She Could Fly, which is the story of a hen who is basically a battery hen, so she's laying eggs and that's her life, but she has become unable to lay eggs, and so they throw her away. The people or the farmers throw her into a pit where all the dead hens end up. And it's the story of her surviving this accident or this event and then finding an egg, because the hen always wanted to be a mother, but all the eggs were taken for others to eat. So when she finds an egg lying around, she sits on it and then raises a little chick that comes out of that, which is not a chick, but something else. And it's a lovely, sweet story about a little bit of finding your purpose, a little bit of identity, and the relationship of fitting in, and probably a lot more that I don't remember and didn't pick up on because I listened to it in one go on a day where I just wanted to listen to a nice story but didn't want to pick it apart. But it was lovely, it was beautiful. I can highly recommend the audiobook. Okay, only two things left. One was the Well of Ascension, which is the second book in the Mistborn series. I started it in May and finished it in June. It was a big book. I struggled a little bit in the middle because I was bored, and I cannot tell you anything that happened right now. I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the twists and turns it took. I was a little bit put off by the love triangle, but it's a second book, so what am I going to tell you? I am still enjoying the series. I'm going to continue with it, and yeah, that's it for that. The last book I finished in June was Divinity 36, and this was a joyful, fun read. It's the beginning of a duology, it is said right now. The second book is coming out in August, so I'm looking forward to that. And it's in the same world as Crud Red, a book I read last month, and it's fun. I found myself following the characters. We're mostly following Fax, who's also a crud rat, but he escaped to a different world and he's trying to make a living. And we learn about this worship or god-like figures, or gods as they call them, in this universe that we didn't hear about in crud rat. But it is sort of, it feels a little bit like pop stars are gods, and there's this planet that trains and creates these groups of 6 usually, with different characters or different positions that the people fulfill, and then they become a pantheon and turn into gods. It's an entertainment worship combination. It's so much fun to read about the casting, about how they are sent to the world, about the characters, how they're put together and the struggles they have. And Fex is, I must say, I'm starting to think I really like grumpy people who don't like to be social but take care of everyone, because I loved Fex and all the stories around that. So I can't wait for the second part, and I highly recommend it if you want to have just some fun, real entertainment story set in science fiction. And that's all I finished. I'm still listening to the collection of Jules Verne's books, and I'm also listening to the Blendings collection by P.G. Wodehouse. So a lot more has been listened to, but not one complete thing has been finished. And that was my June. I'm quite happy with what I read. I'm curious to hear what you have read or done in June. Let me know in comments, and thank you all for watching. Bye bye.